Lamu is that.
Well, Betty, the session has not begun yet. We're looking at 10 a.m. initially, but we're now looking at 11 a.m.
And tell you about what's trending when it's trending.
Two things for you today.
What?
First of all, Zimbabwe has rocked the social media scene.
They have.
Have you come across this hashtag?
No. Empower your mid-morning with the best 2 hours of television news in Kenya. That is News Center with me, Betty Kialo, every weekday 10 a.m. to 12 noon, only on KTN News.
This is KTN News.
On the first day of March 1975, J.M.'s widow Doris Nyambura left Nairobi for their home in Gilgil. J.M. remained in Nairobi. Later that day, J.M. was seen at a local casino before leaving in the company of Ben Gethi. Ben Gethi was the commandant of the powerful paramilitary crack unit, the General Service Unit. That was the last time J.M. was seen or heard from.
Mimi nilikuwa nikisi DVD. Ndugu yangu alikuja na dereva. Walikuja usiku kama saa 3 ama saa 4. Wakaniambia, nikamuuliza kwa nini mnakuja usiku? Akaniambia tunakuja kuchukua wewe sababu JM amepotea. Nikamuuliza amepotea namna gani? Akaniambia gari yake inaonekana Hilton. Lakini yeye haonekani. Na alikuwa amepotea Saturday ama Sunday tarehe 2. Na hiyo kadi bado iko hapo.
And we were being told by some messengers. We knew James since yesterday. Left his car at Hilton, a Mercedes car. And we are being told by the messengers from Hilton are asking where he is. He would come in the park, go and have his meals and drinks with his friends and then go. But this time, he left that car there.
The last person to be seen with outspoken Nyandarua Member of Parliament being the commandant of the dreaded General Service Unit. News of J.M Kariuki missing spread far and fast. The country was on the edge, emerging from a political assassination of another powerful figure, Cabinet Minister Tom Mboya.
Unresolved political issue between the loyalist Kenyatta government that had taken over power in Kenya and those who had brought about independence. And Kenyatta was breaking those promises, as were others. And so there is the assassination of the general and the refusal to negotiate with those coming out of the forest.
He, for example, was the only politician, particularly from the Central Province, who went to the funeral of the late Tom Mboya, who had been killed in a similar manner. And because of that, again, he made even more enemies from the same people who didn't like what he was doing, out of inaitwa wivu. Yeah. Alienda huko kufanya nini? Hiyo mazishi ya huyo mtu. Sasa, so that is the kind of person we are talking about. Yeah. He did fear. He knew he was the only one, and he had to go all the way to Rusinga Island to the funeral of his colleague.
The government was suddenly under pressure from Parliament to explain the whereabouts of J.M Kariuki. The then Vice President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi told Parliament that J.M Kariuki had traveled to Zambia for official business. Moi doubled up as the Minister for Home Affairs and leader of government business on the floor of Parliament.
Well, I heard that he was missing through our High Commissioner in Nairobi because he knew that I was a friend of J.M. So, since I was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, he got in touch with my office to notify them that the minister's friend is missing. He hasn't been seen. And then when the story broke out, I think it was either in the Nation or in the Standard, not quite sure, one of these two, maybe even in both, that he was visiting Zambia, visiting me in Zambia. When I had actually seen him off before I left for the Far East, my office then contacted me that he was missing. I was still in New Zealand at the time. And when I got to the Philippines, that is when I heard that now he was actually still missing, and there were reports that he was with me here in Lusaka. So I was a bit agitated by that, because I felt that, you know, I realized immediately that something sinister must have happened, because he had just been to visit Zambia and he had left before I left for the Far East. How come that now they were reporting that, you know, he was in Zambia visiting me when he had already left Zambia?
Where was J.M Kariuki? Was J.M Kariuki missing, or had something worse happened to him? There was awkward silence from J.M.'s senior friends, now turned enemies in government. Kenyatta's inner circle included Senior Superintendent of Police Arthur Wanyuke Thungu, the president's personal bodyguard, a shadowy, even sinister figure. Mbiuko Inange, the Minister of State, never left President Kenyatta's side until his death. Mbiu wielded so much power that those around Jomo Kenyatta at times thought the president had shared with him classified state secrets. Bruce Mackenzie's Kenyatta's agriculture minister had a run-in with the Nyandarua Member of Parliament, J.M Kariuki, in the past. Early in 1969, J.M took advantage of the minister's absence and sacked 7 expatriates employed by his boss, Bruce Mackenzie. Mackenzie cancelled his trip and flew back home, an enraged man.
He wrote letters to all the expatriates. He had calculated their salary arrears and whatever was due, whatever benefits. I think the PSO was, whoever it is, he had instructed him to do that job, give him a proper exercise, and that's what happened. So Jem sent checks with those letters to each expatriate executive, terminating the contract.
The cabinet did not disown J.M.'s decision to fire the 7 experts. Mackenzie never forgave J.M. J.M. Kariuki's widow says the first person she called was her co-wife, Terry Kariuki.
Nilienda kwa dada yangu. Sasa nikapigia Terry simu the following day. Nikamuuliza nimekuja Nairobi na mimi nasikia J.M mzee, tulikuwa tukimuita mzee. Nasikia mzee haonekani. Terry aliniambia hakuna baya, hapana iko pahali mzuri.
But J.M was not coming back. J.M was missing and the country was demanding for answers. This was 10 days after he was reported missing.
Kulikuwa na wazi sana sababu sijui walikuwa kitafuta nini. Askari wanakuja na malori kubwa, wanazunguka kwetu, wanatoka. Tukiwa na lori inaingia tunafikiri labda wanamulete. Wanakuja wanatuliza amekuja, ameonekana hapana.
Ben Gethi, a dreaded figure around Jomo Kenyatta, was the last person to be seen with the Nyandarua Member of Parliament, who had now run into trouble with the Kenyatta administration. Just days before J.M went missing, a bomb had gone off at the OTC bus station in downtown Nairobi. 27 people had died. A former permanent secretary in the Kenyatta administration told Case Files, moments after the bomb blast, J.M walked to him and told him the blast was meant to divert attention. J.M told the permanent secretary, who had hosted him in Karen for an evening cocktail party attended by several senior government officials, that he was the main target. The blast was meant to prepare the country for the worst, J.M Kariuki's murder.
If these things are planted, as we did think they were planted, then why was the government planting them if it was not involved?
J.M had on the morning of his disappearance gone to the Hilton Hotel in his private vehicle. The Member of Parliament took up his favorite sport, where he was served by a man he knew too well. Those who knew J.M Kariuki described him as a fiery politician who rarely took prisoners. J.M will at times travel across the country for fundraisers, an undertaking that was in some circles viewed as an exclusive privilege of the President Jomo Kenyatta at the time. J.M was one politician who openly spoke about the rising numbers of poor Kenyans, openly spoke about the promises the government had made to a younger nation that was now 12 years old, a situation he famously captured as a country of 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. J.M Kariuki's widow told case files she was later informed that the body of a man had been booked at the city mortuary. At the time, the government had insisted several times that J.M had traveled to Zambia for an official visit. When Vice President Daniel Moi, who was in charge of the police and home affairs docket, stood up to speak, he was cut short by screaming women. J.M Kariuki's widows had managed to sneak into parliament and were shouting from the public gallery.
When he comes and reads that or states that, James' wife screamed in the balcony. You see, his body is in the city mortuary. Don't tell Kenya lies. Moi was so affected. I saw him when I was in the house. He couldn't speak anymore. The only last statement he said, if that be true, then this country is in danger.
J.M.'s body had been discovered in a thicket in the outskirts of Ngong town. The country was caught up between fear and death. Josiah Mwangi Kariuki was a dead man. His daughters, hundreds of kilometers away in a missionary school in Kitale.
I remember one of them as soon as they got into the car, that is Rosemary, and she said, "It is Kissinger, isn't it?"
And then she said, "Well, they found him, but unfortunately he's dead." Just like that.